for is men to be responsible to their society, which means being responsible to women and men, and the recognition that if men are not just to their women, they suffer, their family will suffer, their community will suffer, and so will the nation. So that was what Tawakkul Kamran in Yemen was calling for, and what the women in all of these revolutions that are incorrectly referred to as the Arab Spring, it's what they were all calling for. We have to, as a group, that's what Asma Mahfouz was asking for in her Facebook demand to men to come to Tahrir. You've got to reclaim your masculinity. And your masculinity is your honor, your karama, and your karama is dependent on your recognizing my dignity, my right to respect. So, yes, it sounds like, I guess, contradiction, but, along with Hegel, I would insist that we think of the non-contradiction of contradictions. Sorry, is that a complicated way to end this?
I just want to, put this in perspective of the fact that they have actually deployed multiple strategies to overcome all these barriers, and actively being opposed to authoritarianism and distancing themselves from oppressive states, which the women have done, to kind of regain their integrity within the movement. So like Egypt, Lebanon, where uprisings were met with an iron fist in a lot of ways. Feminists of these countries made it clear that they also refused a seat offered to them on that authoritarian table. So you have simultaneously this, and then you have this notion of maybe prodding on a context of regain your masculinity. It's not such a one-sided thing. It's complex. It's part of this package deal that we're looking at. How and you've given enough and more instances on how that growth has happened over a period of time, including 2019, when this horrific femicide took place in Palestine, which rocked the entire region. This whole Talat movement was born in response. So the personal is political got reinstated. Do you still see this notion of them men? This notion of identity in the context of their men. Do you still see that? Or is that part of the package deal? It's not so simple. So it's got to be, put in the larger, liberation interlinking with national liberation. They're not looking at small things. They're looking at the bigger picture and being part of it and opposing any kind of, SOPs that they're being offered, which is radical.
Yes, and even as I have kind of traced through the ways in which women in representation are erased or marginalized, we also have to see the extent to which women are playing important roles, because if you look just at, I don't know, maybe 15 Arab countries where women were at the forefront of these revolutions, they may not yet, as in Egypt or Yemen, have constitutional rights. I don't think that their participation can be erased in the way that it was. And it wasn't erased. I think it's plowed under. Because how is it that in the 1980s, feminist scholars could go back in history and find these women who'd been disappeared. So it in the same way that I was talking about the mushtahidat, so the women who practiced ijtihad to demand rights for women through Islam, were then contested by men who feel very threatened by women in power. It's almost as though that struggle between Islamists and Mujtahidat is strengthening Mujtahidat. At least I hope so.
We have a raised hand here of Rohit as well. So do you want to address the question yourself? Rohit Rawat, is it? Please introduce yourself as well.
I think we have, there has to be, I think we have exceeded our time, ma'am. I think, do we have room for more questions? Because I do not want to take your time beyond the limit that we had set. So I know there have been questions being pouring. We have in the chat box, it is full of questions, which I think we can carry it on and we can email it to you and you can answer them. And I guess, so I think we end the Q&A with this. And I would like Priti to please.
Yes, ma'am. Hello, good evening. Shall I add one point, ma'am? It's not big question. It's not that huge and large question. Just one point. If we go back to the history, Islamic history, we can find Aisha. She has fought along with men the war of Badr, Uhud with men, and then we can trace the history from there. Thank you. This was just.
No, Aisha was at the Battle of the Camel.
Yeah, Camel. And she fought that one on her own, but she was along with Muhammad and Abu Bakr. She was there in the Jang Uhud and Badr as well. Thank you, ma'am. This was just to add on it. Thank you so much.
No, I mean,
Sapna Mara from Kashmir, from Cluster University, Kashmir, and heading the sociology department at Cluster University. Thank you, Sapna.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Should we?
Yes, Priti, I know we don't want to end this session because, Miriam, we have so many questions and which are pouring in incessantly, but I know we have to respect what we have. So I